Evening all on PlayChat and also streaming to YouTube. Okay, I thought we could continue on from next week. I had a club match last night, so hence it's Wednesday actually, this stream. I usually reschedule for Wednesday. And okay, let's see, part 5 of Bobby Fischer at the Palma de Mallorca Interzonal tournament of 1970. And we have some noisy background effects tonight, fireworks. Yep, 5th of November. A lot of pets are scared at the moment. I think Katie's a bit scared, but she's downstairs, she's okay. But yeah, we got background effects. Probably not the best day ever to do a live stream, to be honest. This session, we're going to look at 3 key games, and actually the third game is the start of Bobby Fischer's long winning streak. I've got the audio on there, mute it in there. So Bobby Fischer's long winning streak started in this tournament. I think it was 18 or 19 games, and yeah, let's check out the games then. So in round 15, we're up to round 14, so round 15 Fischer was playing white, and he was playing white against Eleazar, Jimenez, Zerquera. And let's have a look. He played e4, and should we just say Eleazar for short, played e5, and we have knight f3, knight c6. Okay, so bishop b5, Roy Lopez, a6, bishop drops back. Pretty standard stuff so far. Knight f6, rook e1, d6. Pretty solid system so far. I'll just connect to Livebook just as an opening reference. Yeah, usually b5 is actually played there, by the way, but d6 was played. And now Fischer plays c3. We have black castling, d4. Usually in this position, apparently d3 is a lot more popular. There's about 453 games with d3 in this particular position. h3 53, but Fischer's choice, yeah, a bit rarer. Immediate d4 here. So what's the problem with this? Well, black now took on actually d4. Often in this position, Livebook indicates 106 games with bishop d7. The evaluation is supposed to be slightly okay for white overall, but e takes d4. We're largely out of opening theory already, which you might think is a little bit strange. It's because black hadn't played that b5, instead had played d6. So we're in an unusual sort of position really here for the Roy Lopez already at move 9. C takes d4. We're totally out of Livebook nearly. We're out of Livebook already. And white seems to have a structural threat to play bishop takes c6. You know, with b5 not being played, what's this bishop still doing on a4? And in fact, okay, let's put on a kibitzer here to get a grip on what's going on. Black actually in the game took the opportunity to play d5. If b5 here, I think this might be playable just about bishop b3. That should be okay. It looks as though white might be I don't think e5 is doing too much, so I don't think there's any major thing. I think after the exchange of queens that wouldn't be that much e5 as a threat, but it's okay. But black actually played d5 and volunteers this structural damage. But first we have e5 being played, so the knight gets kicked to e4, and in this position you might think bishop takes c6 is attractive. Actually Fischer played knight c3. He wants to strengthen his centre if black's really going to take on c3. So what does black actually do here? On bishop f5 there might actually be bishop c2. This is okay. Knight takes. I think white's structure here, it looks solid, but black should also be okay. He's got that c4 square, maybe c5 later, and it should be okay. Okay, so knight takes c3 was played there, b takes, and now bishop f5. And here is where Fischer went for the structural damage. He did actually play bishop takes c6. The engine doesn't like that choice much. Maybe it actually prefers bishop e3. I think this is really the wrong night to do a live stream. I don't know if you can hear these sound effects outside. But anyway, or maybe they add something different to this particular broadcast. 5th of November broadcast. Yeah. Right. So bishop takes c6, b takes c6, queen a4. Okay. So c6 being put under scrutiny. How does black actually defend this, or does he want to play c5 here? Black did actually play c5. I think that probably is the best move. Trying to defend it with queen d7 might be running into bishop a3, and that dart square grip is not too bad here. For example, it looks pretty pleasant for white, that dart square grip, and that c5 square in particular. Maybe the knight can get to c5 as well. So we see the immediate c5, trying to dissolve the double pawns. And Fischer just takes on c5. If he doesn't, then maybe even black could play c4 and have a nice square for the bishop, and then later play c5 again. So that would be quite comfortable. So we have d takes, bishop takes c5. Okay, now we have bishop a3, and black just plays queen e7. I think black already is fairly equal. Bishop takes, queen takes. It's a bit on the dry side, this position. This is on the dry side, I would say. Is there a small positional advantage which could potentially win? Well, I think one thing to notice here is that potentially white has an exciting pawn majority. Not mega exciting, maybe vaguely exciting, of 4-3, and so maybe this next move unblocks the f pawn, ready to roll. Bishop g6, queen c6, getting rid of the queens, looking at this pawn majority. Is that really going to win this game though? So queen takes, knight takes, rook fe8, and now actually, I mean f4 might actually be playable here. But first we see this knight b4, and black plays quite a clever move in this position. Instead of, well, a6 is under scrutiny as well, so we can't use the a rook, or can we? Sorry, rook a d8 to protect the d pawn. I think we can just take there, and if we use the other rook, then this is also not brilliant for black, apparently, because here. And what do we do to protect that pawn? If bishop e4, then we've got f3, I believe, and then we're going to win that centre pawn. So black plays a very clever defence of this. This d pawn plays actually c6, because it notices that there's a backfire of knight takes c6 here on the c pawn. Fischer plays this anyway. I mean, the bishop's actually quite good on this diagonal. So I'm not sure how the knight's going to use the c5 square. So it took rook ac8, knight b4. So a trade of pawns really. But now knight takes d5 here. So Fischer has won his pawn. So a pawn up. Yeah, he's won a pawn. Rook a3. Is this position winning? Well, immediately black might actually be threatening rook a5 here to win the e5 pawn. We see that supported. h5. And here we see knight e3. So knight c4 to d6 looks good. Bishop d3 stops knight c4. Rook a1. Rook b8, as though rook b2 is quite good. And the bishop's stopping white contesting that b file here. We see rook d2. And now black, even though a pawn down, actually forces off an exchange of rooks. And I think the engine agrees with this move. because also if the bishop's on here, it's going to win that a2 pawn. Black's going to get the pawn back. I'm not sure there's much white can do about this here. Fischer played king f2 in the game. You know, some very, very good opponents in this interzonal. I mean, what else do we do here apart from king f2? If we take, then surely, you know, black's fine. Bishop takes, he's winning that a pawn back. If here we can take with the bishop, and that's great. Black's equalized. So yeah, we see king f2. Rook takes e1, takes, and black is getting the pawn back and will have an outside pass pawn in theory. Check. King f2. Bishop takes a2 here was played. Black could have also, I think, taken with the rook as well. f5, but this pawn majority seems as though is something happening with this. Is this quite dangerous? Maybe, you know, rook d7 and later something around the king might be on the cards. Rook a5 though, putting pressure on the pawns. And now here, yeah, e6 or f6, they don't really do anything apart from lose material. e6, I think we just take that. We've got the bishop on that e6 square. This is no problem. So Fischer actually just protects that pawn. I mean, anything else, I don't think it really does anything. f6. Black's best might be to play g5 and look forward to win that pawn on the next go. I mean, actually, white's, yeah, and also this provides possibility if here, well, a nice blockade, bishop e6. So these pawns are really quite a liability. The knight's not in any position to protect e5. So yeah, Fischer just protects this pawn, and we see rook b5 now, which means that this pawn's ready to roll soon. Now it looks as though is e6 tempting, because the rook is supporting e6. If e6 is played here, I think black can actually just take this and now play a sneaky move king g6. And so if e7, then we can play king f7. So it's not that dangerous. We could swap the a pawn for the e pawn, but it's not a big deal really. Black is fine here, and in fact it's totally symmetrical as well. So yeah, in this position after rook b5, we see king f3, a5, king f4, as though the king is venturing somewhere quite dangerously, maybe to stop this king from doing any sort of march after e6, potentially. a4, rook a8, check, king here, bishop b3. So the rook, if it moves off now, then there'll be a3, a2. The pawns, yeah, the ambition of the pawns, I think, has gone now. Fischer plays h3, or maybe it's going to be like this. But we see rook b5 challenging the e pawn again. So if the rook now moves, then we do, I believe, just play a3, and black will be close to, well, black's winning after a3. White can't afford this situation with a3. So white has to keep the rook right behind that pawn. So Fischer plays what seems to be the best move, king f4. And black now plays this check and then goes back. And there's nothing really Fischer can do here. So yeah, he was held to a draw. Both players, they agreed a draw here. So this was round 15. So he's had quite a rocky tournament so far. But as I say, the game after the next one is the start of an amazingly, historically amazing winning streak by Fischer, which became unparalleled by any modern grandmaster. And so we're going to witness the first game in that sequence. I think 18 or 19 games. I think it's an incredible sequence of games, because I want to go past the interzonal and look at the candidates matches after. So it's an amazing winning sequence we're going to witness. But first, there's another tough game ahead in the next round. Just to review this one, let's have a look at what really happened again. So black, Eleazar, Jimenez, Zerquera. I mean, he was a champion in his country. I was reading his bio earlier, and very good player. So d4. Sorry, in this position, this rare d6 had been played instead of b5. So the rare d6, and usually, this is the usual move c3, and black usually actually plays bishop g4 here. Black castled, so that's 77 games for castling versus 270 for bishop g4. And then Fischer went off the beaten path as well. In this position, d3 is usually played, but he actually played d4. So then, okay, sorry, I'll just review it. So it went like this, just very brief review of what we've just seen. So the structural damage didn't really pay off. The knight and bishop the knight looked dangerous but very resourceful c6 instead of, so a temporary pawn sack, but it was okay because a2 is now being put under scrutiny. After a2 was being put under scrutiny, black was virtually equalising once he got that a pawn back, even thumped through with a forceful rook exchange to equalise on pawns soon, and white's majority of pawns was held back resourcefully here. Black's starting to get a menacing a pawn, so both players agreed to a draw. Okay, so let's go on to the next game. Okay, so this next game in round 16, Fischer was playing black here, and after e4, so Tudev Uterman UJ2T UMEN. I think that J can't be pronounced. I mean, I think it must be kept silent. So Tudev Uterman, I would imagine. So Fischer played the Alekhine defense again. I don't know about you guys, but I largely associate Fischer with the Sicilian defence. But yeah, on the run-up, and even in the World Championship itself, he did play the Alekhine defence quite a few times, it seems, if you add it all up. I'm surprised, really, that the Alekhine defence isn't more popular. So we have e5, knight d5, d4, d6, c4, and white goes for the full pawn moving variation, the 4 pawns attack, as it's known, the dreaded 4 pawns attack. So f4, the dreaded 4 pawns attack, is this full of holes or is it really dangerous? So let's see. Bishop, now Fischer played bishop f5. It seems in live book this is the second most popular choice. Black usually takes on e5. For example, and the games often end, there's 309 games here, 300 here. It goes like this. This 4 pawns attack variation, very theoretical. There's quite a lot of games even from this position. Very theoretical stuff. Very violent. But yeah, Fischer played, he didn't play d takes e5. He played bishop f5. Okay, so not melting down white centre just yet. We have knight c3, e6, so white centre still intact. Now usually white plays knight f3 here, a little bit more popular than what was played. Bishop e3, this is the second choice. Usually bishop e7, knight f3 now, transposes probably, castles. Okay, and now we go off the beaten path. With this next move. Usually here white has played, well, 4 times bishop d3 or bishop e2. Here white voluntarily gets rid of his pawn front. The engine suggestion here for white is actually bishop d3 with a small edge. The engine line here, for example, something like this, looks as though white might be doing quite well. A small advantage here, in fact. But yeah, bishop d3 wasn't played. Perhaps bishop takes d3 is just best, taking there, and then d5. Maybe this is best. But yeah, in the game, Yeah, e takes d6, a little bit surprising perhaps. So e takes d6, and now if black blunders with bishop takes d6, then there's c5 winning a piece. So yeah, black has to be careful of c5. So he takes with a pawn. Now we see white supporting that c pawn in advance of doing anything else. White played here b3, and now we see d5, provoking the white pawns forward. We see c5, the knight goes back, and now bishop d3, bishop takes, queen takes, and now Fischer attacks the pawn chain again energetically with b6. So b6 here, and white can't really afford to play b4 here, I would expect, because of a5 being strong, and white would collapse. This is a loose rook here, we can't support it with this, because then we will just take here, and that's pinned. So white actually played c takes b6. So we have queen takes b6, white castles, and now Fischer's keen to get the queens off here. He plays queen a6, which would further weaken white's light squares. The queen drops back, knight c6. Now from an engine point of view, black is slightly better here. Fischer has done well with this Alekhine defense position. He hasn't got any bad pieces. I think that was something said about Fischer games. He never has any bad pieces. There's no bad bishop or anything. It seems quite elegant in a way, but can black actually win from here? Pardon me, I've even got hiccups. Knight e5 was played. Knight c takes e5. F takes, and now black uses that c-file pressure. Rook ac8. So hi all those joining, by the way. Okay, so let's see. With this c-file pressure, white just calmly played rook c1. Perhaps actually this might be a small inaccuracy. The engine suggestion is actually knight a4 here, knight a4, and then maybe if rook c6, then you can challenge this c-file maybe. Okay, but we see rook c1, f6. So biting at white's pawn chain again. E takes, and now, okay, how to take this f pawn? Let's have a look. If bishop takes f6, this wasn't played actually, then white might actually have a good move in queen g4. Maybe this is annoying, slightly annoying for this pawn. The way Fischer played it was actually knight takes f6. Black seems to be in full control here for the moment. Although he has got in theory a backward pawn, it's difficult for white to exploit that right now. And in fact, black might be threatening things immediately, like bishop b4, just to put a knight on e4. So we see h3, and in fact black does do this, bishop b4. This e4 square would be of great interest for a knight, knight a4. Is this enough for a positional advantage with black? The engine suggests putting the knight in straight away on e4 here, with a small advantage for black. So knight e4, the engine suggests, and maybe black's slightly better. Queen g4 is a worry, but this should be okay. This sort of thing should be okay. Yeah, we see actually after bishop b4, we see, yeah, bishop b4 was played, knight a4. We see rook takes c1, bishop takes c1. Now the knight went to e4. Rook takes f8, some simplification. Bishop takes, bishop f4. As though white might be interested in bishop e5 and then maybe queen g4, maybe something like that, maybe. Bishop d6, challenging that bishop straight off the bat. Queen g4, looking at e6. Bishop takes f4, queen takes f4, queen d6. White was threatening things like queen b8 check there, so queen d6 against that. And we have an endgame, sure. Can Fischer really grind out a win from here? The queens came off. So white in this endgame has a 2-to-1 here. If black can liberate with e5, this would be a passed pawn. Let's see what happens from here. Knight c3, knight f5. That protected that pawn, knight e3. As though there might be an interesting going for one of these pawns later, like this. Knight c2 here. The problem is, any knight b4 here, Fischer didn't play this. If he plays this here, well, maybe white could just play a4. That would be fine, in fact. Or knight c3. Maybe knight c3 is even better. So king f7 was played, king f4, king f6. And it looks as though, yeah, black might be trying for g5 check here. We see h4 stopping g5 check, h6, and now a ceiling move, h5. But this pawn is only 3 steps away from queening. Bear that in mind. If black ever gets in this e5 to create this pawn, if the king ever munched this one, this is only 3 steps away from queening. We have knight e1, g3. Knight c2, king g4, and this is the point where black can make a run with this by playing e5. Did white have to play this? Well, yeah, the engine suggests a4, maybe you know, but it does list king g4 as a move, so e5 is allowed. So black is generating a passed pawn. Is this going to be winning? Is that enough to be winning? King f3, knight b4 hitting a2, and now the knight just drops back here, and there's a temptation, you know, let's go in with the king, right? There's a temptation there, king d4. The thing is about this position, it's a bit tricky. We see a very calm move here, g4. Remember, this is only 3 steps away from queening this h-pawn. Fischer in this position played a5 on move 41. If he tries to go all in with his king, this could be a disaster. For example, king c3, you know, check here. I think this could be troublesome, you know, like this, with maybe the king coming for this pawn soon. Well, we can take there anyway. We can take there anyway. That doesn't really help this position. And this position, it looks as though the king's going to be, you know, equalising. So it's a bit of a tricky ending. I think that's the main point. Yeah, the king's going to come for g7. So it's a bit tricky, but with best play it will be tricky anyway. But let's go back. Just the game. Fischer played a5. We have knight e2 check, and now there is an open opportunity to go like this, but Fischer plays king e5. If he did go here, let's have a quick look at this. In this position, a3, knight c2, check, and b4 apparently is equal anyway. This is equalizing. If a4, you know, we can take this, it will get a bit scary. Even if black wins that pawn, we can take this pawn out first, and then the king's going to munch these 2 pawns. It's going to be a draw. So yeah, in the game we see king e5, knight c1, and a draw agreed. A draw agreed here. The engine evaluation is 0.00. Okay, so let's have a quick review, and only a quick one because I want to give the next rounds more attention, which excites me actually. The next game, it's one of the most exciting Fischer games ever. In fact, the next game, in my view. So we have that c takes. So this is an Alekhine defense. Fischer getting a comfortable position with black. Small positional advantage, but it didn't seem decisive enough. This ending didn't seem decisive enough, even though he got to play e5. It seems white has just about enough resources to hold a draw. The engine gives it, you know, dead equal. But yeah, we're going to go on to an exciting game now. So this is the time to wake up, to be as alert as possible to all the finesses of this next game, which is a masterpiece. And it's not a very long-winded game either. It's just a fantastic masterpiece. It's the sort of game you'd like to play once against the Sicilian defence. It was against George Alberto Rubinetti. So this is round 17 of Palma de Mallorca Interzonal, the 2nd of December 1970. Fischer kicked off with e4. We saw the Sicilian defence, c5. White played knight f3, going for an open Sicilian defence. George Alberto Rubinetti played d6. We saw d4, c takes, knight takes, knight f6, knight c3. Now usually the most popular move is the Najdorf move a6. In this game we see e6, Scheveningen pawn structure. Fischer plays bishop c4 like a Fischer-Sozin attack system. Black played the most common move here, a6. Fischer drops back the bishop. Black is playing a classic plan here to play for b5 to put quick pressure on white's centre pawn, with the idea of b4 later to dislodge this knight supporting white's centre. b5 was played. White in this position simply castled. One question might be, it's too dangerous surely to win this pawn. I think you're right to think that. b4 I don't think is a particularly good move here. Knight here takes. White would have good pressure in this position, with actually the move c4, which would break up black's position quite a bit. It's uncomfortable, this position. For example, like this, f3, and it's a very uncomfortable position here, indeed. In fact, the top move might be bishop f4, looking at tactics like this and knight c6. So if castles, bishop takes b8. Yeah, it's odd stuff, but it shows the dangers. Actually, there's multiple forks actually. So yeah, it's too risky to take this pawn. So a key move to remember, though, if you ever get this position, is to play c4 here. If the knight retreated, then there's going to be other trouble ahead here. This is too dangerous as well. There's too much pressure on black in this position. We can try and break black up here with a move like c3, and then if black tries to develop, well, there was knight b6, knight takes d5, for example. Ouch. So black has to tread very carefully, and the chances are, again, with white. So this position is just too dangerous to play. So basically, black doesn't really want to go for that pawn with b4 in a nutshell. So black just puts pressure on e4 with the move bishop b7. Now apparently this might be a slight inaccuracy already. Usually the move bishop e7 is played actually in this particular position. There's over 1300 games with bishop e7. It's important to be accurate, razor sharp accurate in this opening. So bishop b7 was played though. This is the third most popular, only 133 games in the whole of Livebook with bishop b7. And the engine's woken up a bit here, with a small advantage emerging already for white. White plays now rook e1. So this is an X-ray attack on black's king. And that's important to observe, these X-ray kind of checks. Very, very useful move, as we're about to see. So black here played knight bd7, 91 games apparently with knight bd7. Then the top move again, statistically in line, but bishop g5 seems to be just pinning that knight. And here, the top move for black in line is to actually challenge that pin before doing anything else, for black to play h6. This is what's usually played in the, and actually black did play that in the game. Fine. And Fischer dropped the bishop back. Also bishop takes f6 is interesting, but he dropped the bishop back. And possibly here black should consider some radical looking moves. The engine suggestion is actually queen c7 or queen c8, and also the third top is g5, which looks crazy, but you know, it might have a point to it, as we're about to see, because what black played here was neither of these three top suggested moves. Black actually played knight c5. Okay, so we've got this pin here. Black's after the attacking bishop with this move, is also putting pressure on the center. So it looks extremely thematic stuff. What does white play here? I'll give you 20 seconds to find white's move. What would you play here with white? So 20 seconds starting from now. What does white play? So white's play. If you're on Play Chess, please hide the score sheet, by the way. So white's play here. Okay, so there's been one suggestion for knight d5. I'm hoping you've all caught up to this position now. Yeah, it's I think it must be one of Fischer's best sacrifices. Alright, now there's been a suggestion for knight d5 or bishop d5, or e5 now. Now, Fischer actually played bishop d5, and the engine actually thinks this is the top move. The engine at quite a high depth thinks this gives white a big advantage, actually. So yeah, it's nice to put the bishop on prise there. If we had played knight d5, so say we just have this intention of trying to cause disruption, black actually might be better here with the move g5 apparently. What do we do here? If we go here, then black can actually take this, it seems, and the compensation might not be so clear, although it looks quite frightening. You know, take this position looks quite frightening, but I'm not sure white has that much. I think the smoke clears a bit. Queen f6, and black might survive this. Yeah, this is very different. This is very different to the game continuation. But black, apparently this is an engine line, black survives this with knight d5, although knight d5 looks dangerous. Apparently the best move is g5 to knight d5. And if knight takes f6, well, I think white's running out of steam. The attack is running out of steam. We can actually take on e4, and black would even be better here, apparently. I think he can weather the storms here. If it's something like this, bishop g7, we can counter-attack on d4. Black's weathering the storms again. And that black actually might be a bit better. But what Fischer played, bypasses these resources. Bishop d5 poses some problems for black. Let's see. I mean, say g5 here. G5 here. Okay, I think this might be an idea. Bishop takes. Bishop g3. And we've got our sights on e5 here. d6 looks vulnerable. So if black, I mean, say we play bishop e7, then knight c6, and actually that's really dangerous. So yeah, what does say bishop g7, then e5, and this doesn't look too hot for black. He's compromised a bit the king side. If he castles here, I mean this is good pressure on the king side. Also, we're looking at the knight here. So yeah, I don't think g5 really helps black. Although it is actually the top engine move to play g5, even against bishop d5. One of the top engine moves was mentioned anyway. G5. In the game, we actually have the sacrifice being accepted with e takes d5. But just before we get into that, on queen c8, what would Fischer's idea be here? Well, he can take here, and then this is unpleasant. So yeah, I think we've got things like, well, we've got numerous things going on here. This looks unpleasant. And if bishop e7, then taking and knight c6 again is unpleasant. Unpleasant pin would result there at minimum. So yeah, the sacrifice is taken. E takes d5. So we have e takes d5 check. And now it's apparent immediately that actually bishop e7 really doesn't help black. White could actually either play knight f5 or bishop takes first, and then bang, knight f5. You know what? Black's rook's doing nothing. Black would be defenseless here virtually. If black tried to defend like this, I don't think it really helps. We just take that and we're just mashing black still. Yeah, so so this is to be avoided. The king has to step to d7. And now here is actually a very interesting attacking move in this position, which the engine lists as actually the second, maybe the second, just about on equal terms with another move. In fact, what does white play here? So white wants to carry on the attack. What would you play here if I gave you 20 seconds? White to play in this position. Any ideas? Okay, yeah. Both knight c6 and b4 are quite dangerous. Fischer played b4, but also knight c6 apparently is quite dangerous. For example, like this, check, check, and b4 here. I mean, this is a very dangerous position for black. But yeah, Fischer's move is really cool as well, though. b4. So the knight hasn't got too many squares to go anywhere. That knight's pinned anyway. If g5 here, this wouldn't help. White just plays this. He's got c6 then. So the knight goes to a4, and now Fischer takes this, and now reinforces his d5 pawn with c4. Not only that though, c5 c6 is really dangerous now. The king is also now faced with things like this. Queen takes a4 check is now on the cards, or maybe taking first to put the queen there, then taking here, and then we've got queen a5 check potentially. So very dangerous position. We see king c8, and Fischer snaps off the a4 pawn. So for the moment he has 2 pawns for the bishop, 2 pawns and a pin. This bishop isn't that brilliant, so he's a bishop down. But white is also threatening immediately now. It seems bishop takes f6, queen takes, and rook e8 check is really dangerous for black's king safety. Just to demonstrate that threat, let's just give black a nothing move. Say black played a nothing move. I just want to show you that. h5. We've got this here, check here, check here. And in this position, what we can do, take here, takes, queen b6, protecting here, but also threatening check here. So if we get this sort of position, end up winning material with a big advantage. If it takes here, then knight c6. So that seems to be the threat, taking on f6 and then rook e8. Black played queen d7, so hitting the queen. We have queen b3. In this position, yeah, queen b3, okay. So white is interested, it's still doubling the pawns maybe, and then or just rolling black over with c5. We see g5 stopping that doubling the pawns, but the bishop is actually on quite a dangerous diagonal here. Knight h5 now is played. Now Fischer plays, the knight's actually come off the d5 pawn, and Fischer plays c5, but you might think the queen and bishop are on d5. And maybe that's what the opponent thought. Maybe the opponent thought this wasn't possible, this c5 here. It's a very, very strong move. Black did take this, maybe licking his lips for the d5 pawn. B takes, and he took on d5, and he's threatening mate. But alas, we have this for black check, this check here, and look at that bishop, it's stopping king c7. So we have king d7 stepping onto a white square. And here we've got pressure on a8, right? Fischer just plays queen a4 check, protecting the rook indirectly. King hasn't got c7, hasn't got anything else. So bishop c6, and now Fischer just plays knight takes c6. And black resigned here at move 24. What can black do? The most obvious thing to consider, well, let's look at some various possibilities. If queen takes, then even stronger than taking here is actually rook d1 check. Yeah, so if we, this falls to bits. So this black's king is just caught here. Horrible. So that's not on the cards. There's rook d1. Murderous. If king takes e8, then check. And this is horrible. Say bishop e7. Knight takes e7 check. And here, this is just horrible. If queen d7, this is a nightmare. Knight g6 check. Queen a5 check. You know, black is getting mated. Knight e7. He has to give up his queen. He's just getting mated. You know, here then there's this. So it's all pretty much a nightmare, this final position. In fact. So knight takes c6. So that loses. King takes e8, loses to rook e1 check. A side variation here, by the way, is king f8. We just take the queen, actually. It's not too much of a side variation. So this is really all over here. What else? What else does black do? Rook takes e8. We have knight b4 check. So we got discovered attack on the queen, and we're hitting the king. So we just win. Well, we can first take the rook there, in fact. If here, you know, we can carry on just mashing black up. We can take all these bits, in fact, or we'll just take the queen. Everything's winning here. So it's all falling apart. If anyone thinks there's a defense, you know, please let me know. There's no defense here. Yeah, after knight takes c6, black resigned. If anyone wants to see if there's a defense, I'll give you 20 seconds here. Then we can review what happened in this game. Maybe it's a classic for the king caught in the center. We can. What other moves are there to examine? I'm not sure there's too many other moves here. If you know the immediate, I mean, there's immediate threats. Knight d8 is threatened with checkmate, double check, checkmate. Knight b4 check threatens to win the queen as a secondary threat. Yeah. So yeah, it was a very neat game, and this is the game which celebrates this huge winning streak, this historically amazing, unsurpassed winning streak of about 19 games in a row. Let's look at it again. So it was a Sicilian defense with maybe one or two small inaccuracies from black, but this is a really crushing move that was played. This bishop d5 is actually much stronger than knight d5. And it's like a bishop sacrifice, which got this amazing wedge of pawns here visually, which even was, well, it's getting back 2 pawns for the bishop, so he's thinking 2 pawns for the bishop. It must be good fun here, and he's right. So white was threatening immediately bishop takes f6. We see this. We see the queen coming back to b3. g5. Bishop dropping, knight h5. c5, yep. D takes. 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 Check. Check. Knight takes c6. Crush. This was a fantastic king's crush that any king's crusher would be proud of. Oh dear. Okay, I hope you enjoyed these 3 games this week, and it carries on. We'll carry on with the winning streak. So from this point to the 1972 World Championship match, we're going to have a look at the candidate games, the rest of this tournament. And I know it's a spoiler alert, but yeah, it's win, etc. About 19 in a row now, from now on in. Okay, yeah, comments or questions on YouTube, and see you next week on Tuesday. Thanks very much.